Hi, you've clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Wednesday, June 20th. Here we are looking at the Atlantic, and again, most of the activity is now becoming concentrated in the Gulf of Mexico and the Northwest Caribbean, now moving out of the Caribbean and is going to be focusing in the Gulf for the next several days. If you look closely as the sun comes up here, you can see an area of low pressure now starting to develop southwest of Key West, Florida, and still an open trough, but is starting to develop some rotation that you can see in the low-level clouds here. This will be becoming more defined gradually with time. Notice again that for now the thunderstorms are still off to the east of this center, and the low-level center that's developing here is exposed due to a bunch of wind shear still coming across the Gulf of Mexico at this time. Conditions will gradually become a little bit more favorable, but will probably never be perfect as time goes on. So expect this to be a lopsided system for a while yet at least, but pressures will be lowering in this area as the divergence aloft in general is going to allow the pressures to lower, and this thing will become better defined. Here's the water vapor imagery, and again you can see the cirrus clouds moving west to east here, indicating the jet stream blowing across, and wind shear is not that great right now. It's pretty high over the Gulf. You can see this little upper low over the Florida Panhandle moving northward, eventually getting out of the way and allowing this other upper low to the west to ventilate the Gulf of Mexico a little bit better here. But again, because of how strung out the situation is and how elongated the area of upward motion is, it's never going to be a perfect situation for the next week, and whatever upper high develops over the Gulf is going to be very elongated and probably allowing shearing to go on throughout the rest of the system's life, and that's another reason why we're not expecting this to become very strong if it does develop into a tropical storm later on. And the big story with this will continue to be the rains. The big question right now, though, is exactly where this thing is going to go. The models have become a lot less, if you can believe that, less uh, agreeable since yesterday, and they disagree a lot now on what's going to happen with this system, and they've been changing their minds a lot over the last few days. This is the GFS 500 millibar day 4, and you can see the upper trough over Florida here. It's basically already bringing the system out to the northeast into this trough that you can see moving into the eastern seaboard. You've got the ridge back here developing over Texas, but it lets it escape. It doesn't bring it west underneath the ridge, but it lets it escape. And we talked yesterday about how the GFS is often biased towards letting this happen. But if we look at the European here, this is the 500 millibar day 4 as well. You can see the trough over the northeast, and here's the 500 millibar circulation over the central Gulf of Mexico stacked over the surface low. You can see the 500 millibar ridge nosing its way at least to the Mississippi River, and it looks like it could catch this, and it could catch it, but then the European actually lets it slip away here. This is day 6, and you can see it moves into northern Florida, and the trough here apparently deepens just enough to grab it on this model run, and the ridge is still sitting over here. But it's kind of reluctant to do so. Notice it's leaving a mid-level piece behind over here that gets into the western part of the Gulf of Mexico and does get caught by the ridge. So this elongated trough back here, kind of like a trough split situation, indicating that the models are not really sure. It's really on the edge right now whether this trough is going to be strong enough to make this stall in the central Gulf and then eventually get picked back up towards the northeast. The situation again is very similar to the Allisons of 1989 and 2001. The one in 2001 went into Texas, came back down as it got blocked by the ridge, and then moved east-northeast into Louisiana and Florida as a trough dug into the eastern part of the United States, which is a similar situation here, the difference being that the track is not coming straight into Texas, but is now coming from the Caribbean in this situation, and is going to be moving into the central Gulf near 90 west. The question is whether it continues west or sits for a while and then gets pulled out later. Right now, I'm not quite ready yet to give up on the idea that this should still try to get into the western part of the Gulf here. The models aren't really sure of themselves yet, and really aren't flipping as so much as becoming more diverged and don't really know what they're doing. This is the Canadian ensemble mean precipitation field. By day 6, it doesn't know what it's doing. You can see east to west across the entire Gulf of Mexico it has a belt of rain, indicating that it doesn't know whether it's over here or whether it's over here. It really can't tell. It's pretty much split half and half there. This is the NAIFS, which is the only ensemble mean that still solidly shows this getting west of 90 west into the northwest Gulf. This is the kind of solution I expect to happen, and it'll try to move into southern Texas and northern Mexico if it gets captured by the ridge. And then there's the Japanese model, which also has this getting into the western Gulf still. Again, a lot of strung out precipitation, but it still has the low getting farther west than some of the other models. So we're still going to have to play with this a bit. This is a very tough forecasting situation, and this is going to be around a while. This could be still 6 or more days of us dealing with this low now forming in the Gulf of Mexico, meandering around in here near 90 west and deciding whether it wants to go this way or out to the northeast. Either way, very similar situations to the Allisons of '89 and 2001, so we can look to those for the general idea that we have a massive rain that gets into the Gulf, starts meandering around, and could affect parts of the North Gulf Coast if it gets far enough north here, and we have monsoonal moisture that will be getting into this action as well. So a very moist pattern. What I'd really like to see is this designated an invest, them to give it a low position here, so we can designate this, give it some coordinates, and then let the models run off of that. They haven't done that yet. I hope they do it later today, because it would be very helpful to initialize all of the models at the correct coordinates and then see what happens. But we will let them work themselves out. They are computers and they have fun doing this, and we have fun doing this as well, forecasting the weather. And again, this should not be a major problem in terms of strength of winds if this does develop, because wind shear will not be great, and this whole situation is elongated and kind of a mess. So this won't be a big problem in terms of watching for hurricane development, but if this becomes a tropical storm, rainfall will be a big story, and will certainly be welcome for the folks over here. And Florida is already getting a good deal of it right now, and will continue to get some over the next couple of days. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.